The Cockatrice Boys by Joan Aiken, Chapter 7. The cockatrice bell crept along very slowly and mournfully in the days following the loss of Sana. When they were still at Fallstone, Lieutenant Upfold had the sensible idea of giving the dog Yuli Sana's skipping rope and ordering him to follow her track. This worked well so long as the road ran beside the railway. But at Hatwick, the track of the coach carrying the kidnapped girl diverged from the rail, turning northeastwards, while the train was obliged to continue straight on in a northerly direction. "Should we send a separate party of men along the road to follow the scent?" worried the colonel. "There aren't many monsters about just now." "On the whole, I think it would be best if we kept all our forces together," advised Dr. Wren. "Remember what happened at Willoughby. The lack of monsters may mean they are massing elsewhere. Besides, we may pick up the track at Peebles." Not happy about this, but there really seemed no alternative. The colonel accepted Dr. Wren's counsel. He was extremely put out, though, before they reached Peebles, when the Archbishop insisted on a visit to Melrose, which took half a day. "What in the world is that for?" demanded Clipspeak sourly. "I need to consult the library there," was Dr. Wren's calm answer. When the Archbishop returned to the train, the colonel was pacing to and from, on indignant watch for him. "Well," he snapped, "did you find what you hoped for in the library, may I ask? It's as well there are so few monsters about. Your little side trip might have cost us dearly." "I fear they must be massing farther on." "No," said Dr. Wren, "I hardly hoped to find anything, but it was needful to check." "To check what? What, pray, were you looking for?" "Michael Scott's last book." "That fellow that wrote Tom Cringle's log?" "No, Colonel, no," said the Archbishop patiently. "The other one, the 13th century alchemist. As I believe I told you, his grave is in Melrose Abbey, and he is said to have stipulated that his last book, his greatest achievement, should be buried along with him." "So? Well, was the book in the grave or the municipal library?" "No, it was in neither of those places. The grave had been opened some time during the last century, but only a single page of the manuscript was discovered in it. That had been deposited in the municipal library, but it seems that just last year it was stolen." "Disgraceful," remarked the colonel, not particularly interested. "Even public libraries aren't safe from vandals these days. So you had a wasted visit, when we might have been on our way." "Oh, not entirely wasted," said Dr. Wren peacefully. "Knowledge is always useful. I had a description of the man who stole the page." At Peebles there was a somewhat unnerving shortage of monsters. But here the intelligent hound Yuli once more picked up the scent of the coach that had carried off Sana. The trail, not surprisingly, led northwards, through Edinburgh, but then, to the colonel's surprise, it turned west once more, avoiding the main line to Edinburgh, and seemed to be heading for Linlithgow and Falkirk. "Just as I expected," said Dr. Wren with satisfaction. "They are making for the Crook of Devon, a most unchancy place for evil frame and bad repute." "Then why the plague didn't they go across the Forth Bridge and turn left?" demanded the colonel. "Ah, well, there are some natures, Colonel, who strongly dislike crossing running water, especially in wide channels, and will go out of their way to avoid it." The train suddenly jerked to a halt. Bellswinger's voice came over the intercom. "Basilisk attack, sir." "Are the men at action stations?" "Yes, sir." Colonel Clipspeak hurried off to the observation platform, from which the sky looked like Guy Fawkes being celebrated. On La Courtisée Joulet, as the flaming basilisks hurtled into attack, and then bore off again into the darkness with the agility of gulls and the ferocity of eagles. Luckily, the Cockatrice Corps had picked up a number of tips in basilisk warfare as they traveled through the border country. This bleak, hilly territory, once ravaged by border raiders, was now the perching place for aerial predators, and natives had learned various canny ways of confronting them, or rather, combating them. "Ye should never face a basilisk head-on," an aged Ettrick shepherd instructed Bellswinger. "They are like the mercandiles. In that respect, ye should aye gang him. Tercy versy. Shoot at the fearsome beast over your shoulder. But suppose that two come at you from opposite directions at the same time. You'll just have to deal with them in a parabolical manner. Lieutenant Upfold, who had cousins in Australia and had visited that land, partly solved this problem by constructing boomerang rockets fired by curving projectile pistols. These missiles, flying around in circles, achieved considerable damage among flocks of basilisks, and were by far the best weapons yet devised for dealing with the unpleasant antagonists. During the current attack, when the basilisks were flying low and keeping in close formation, the boomerang rockets had marked success, knocking down at least 75% of the attacking force and causing the rest to sheer off southwestwards and take refuge in the Pentland Hills. The train had to halt while the battle raged. A protective screen had to be lowered over the windshield, and it took time to lower and then raise it again. When calm finally succeeded, the crackle of pistol fire and the menacing shrieks, hisses, and whistles of the basilisks, the colonel gave the order to get underway without delay. But while wind power was still being mustered, a desolate cry from alongside the track caused Sergeant Belswinder to hesitate. "Beg pardon, Colonel, sir, but that was a call. But was that a call for assistance?" "Help me! Oh, please help me! Help!
"Can it be one of our men snatched off by a basilisk?" asked the colonel, frowning. "Light a flare, if you please, Sergeant."
In the greenish light of the flare, they saw a man feebly crawling up the embankment toward the track. He was covered in mud.
"I don't think it's one of ours, sir," said the sergeant. "All ours are accounted for. No serious casualties at this time, I'm happy to say, but this fellow looks to be in a poor way. Something about the cut of his jib seems familiar. Clinch and Mollusk, go down and give him a hand."
The injured man seemed unable to walk. He had to be carried. A ferocious growl from Yulee, the girdling hound, could be heard as the sufferer was carried aboard, which soon gave a clue to his identity.
"Good gracious, sir," said Sergeant Bellwether. "Why, it's our bad penny turned up again. It's Tom Flint." And we will pause there.